Okay, well, let's get started. I want to first thank you for logging on today to see my new book debut, Cheecho the Magnificent Magico. My name is Manny Padilla. I'm the author of Cheecho, and I'm excited that you guys could log on today to learn more about my new book, which just came out on the presses a few weeks ago. So I'm starting to put the word on there. A little bit of background about myself. I wrote professionally for about 35 years before retiring. I always said to myself, if I could retire young enough and had brain cells left, I would write novels. So that was 6 years ago, and I have since been writing novels. Cheecho is my second book, so I'm excited about that because Cheecho is kind of a departure from something you would expect somebody who has a journalism, marketing, advertising, corporate PR background to be writing about. It's a book about a child, and I think being a child is a fascinating time of life, and the world is full of magic. So when you take a character like Cheecho and you kind of set him loose in his own little world, it kind of opens up a lot of possibilities as to what he can experience. Cheecho the Magnificent Magico is a middle grade book which is aimed at primarily at 9 to 12-year-olds. However, adults will be able to read it and get a totally different understanding of what the book is about. Cheecho is a story about a boy who discovers that he has magic powers and befriends an old magician. And the reason being is that his father goes back to Mexico for fear of deportation. And the boy thinks that by using magic, he can bring his father back. So if his magic is strong enough, it can return his father to him and heal the heart of the lonely old magician. If not, he may never see his father again, and his friend will fall into further ruin. There are some side characters in the book, and one of those is Abby Irma. That's Cheecho's grandma, and he stays with her in the summer while his parents are working. So Abby is short for abuelita. And so then he's got two other friends, which are traviesos, they're troublemakers. That's Sergio and Sarah. And so Sergio and Sarah also stay with their grandma during the day, but they're always getting in trouble, and they get Cheecho in trouble, and he gets into some big trouble in the book as he learns more about magic and how to improve his skills. But by the same token, the thread running throughout the book is that he misses his father and he wishes his father to return. So in between the fun and the magic and everything, there's this underlying subplot of kind of separation, from a parent and thing. Why did I pick his father being deported? I wanted to add something different to the old friend, young child relationship. And I actually came up with the idea for Cheecho in 2020 when children were being separated from their parents as part of all the immigration stuff going on. I wondered at that time, I'm like, what does this feel like to the children? What are the children experiencing? What type of loss, anxiety? Do they have fear? Do they have depression? So I started researching it. I Googled children undocumented separation, and I was surprised at the amount of materials that I found online. This is not a political book, but I think the feelings of separation that Cheecho experiences are not only those felt by children who have been separated by their parents, but any kind of loss in a child's life. I set the book in the 80s because that was when President Reagan did the Immigration Reform Act, so that was a nice backdrop. But also I wanted to free the book of entanglements such as cell phones, and these days the kids would probably be sitting on their iPad rather than going out and causing problems and things like that. So it's an interesting backdrop. I used a lot of background from my own life in setting up where the characters live. Obviously, this book is a fantasy, so it's not based on anything that's happened in my life. But specifically the Abby Irma character, the grandma, she is modeled after my grandma Bessie. And my grandma Bessie was quite a character. And the book, when you read it, is actually very descriptive of something that you might see in my grandma's house. And the things that she interacts with Cheecho on, such as sorting beans and things like that. Anybody who comes from a Latin family has probably had an incident where either their mother or their grandfather said, here, sort these pinto beans to get the rocks out. Well, if you're not Latino, typically when you get pinto beans, they're hard and they may have little rocks in them. So you have to sort through them to make sure that rocks are not in there. So there's little incidents from childhood that I remember that I thought, oh, that would be great if we had Cheecho do things like that. Um, as a Latino person, it was important to me that the family was Latin, and their names and their lifestyle reflect that of a modern Latin family. So this movie is not this movie. This I wish it was a movie. I hope it'll be a movie. Uh, this book is about a modern Latino family. So you're not going to find the whole Latins coming across the border and immigrating and all that. Although that is part of it. The father going back to Mexico, he had already lived in America for decades. It was just he had never gotten around to becoming a citizen. So that kind of was the fulcrum to start that book. Um, so I wanted young children to see a normal, Mexican American, Latin American lifestyle without the entanglements of, all the drama that often accompanies an immigration story. And again, this is not a political book, but I just wanted some different flavor to the father disappearing than you would typically see in a book like this. Um, People have asked me, where did you get the name Cheecho from? Well, actually, Cheecho was a grade school friend of mine, Narciso Gonzalez. And if you went to school with me, you would know everybody called him Cheecho. And when I started trying to think of the characters' names, I just heard Cheecho in my head. And it was just like, it had a really nice ring to it. And so I decided to call him Narciso Gonzalez. Originally, the book was going to be called Narciso Gonzalez Knows Magic, but I was thinking if people were Googling the title, that might be difficult. So Cheecho the Magnificent Magico came to be. Um, Another interesting fact that I learned about Latinos in books and things when I was researching was presently 3% of children's books are written by or about Latinos, even though 27% of all public school age children are Latino. There's a vast underrepresentation of minorities in the publishing industry. And I wanted to write a book where a child of color could read it and see bits of how their life may be that don't reflect maybe what other norms are. So it's important that they saw Latino names in there, that they see the characters are Latino, and I wanted them to be able to, I call it, view themselves as positively powerful. So we all know when we see ourselves reflected in the media, we say, wow, I'm important, I'm somebody. And I don't think there's enough books out there for children, specifically children of color. In fact, more children's books have animals as lead characters than they do of Latinx children. So that says something about what's going on in the publishing industry. That's one of the reasons I'm so excited about debuting Cheecho. And so that's an exciting thing. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try to be working with local school districts and things like that to get the word out within there, because I think the topic of separation and anxiety and everything is something that children are experiencing these days, and it's something that, when they see there's certain behaviors that Cheecho learns to calm himself down when he's anxious that his father isn't coming back. So things like that are interspersed with that. But I wanted to make it a lot of fun. So, if you read the back of the cover, it talks about mysteriously appearing enchiladas. Well, Cheecho's grandma makes some awesome chicken enchiladas. And so at one point, Cheecho needs to use her enchiladas to help get him out of trouble. Also, Cheecho has a fish tank. So when he wants to see what's going on with his dad, he goes to his fish tank and he says, let me see my father. And so the fish tank, his father appears in the fish tank. So there's little tidbits of things like that. Also on the cover is, and this is my favorite thing, this is Pancho the Flying Pig. If you can see, where is he? He's right there. So Pancho is a really funny character, and something really fun happens to him during the 4th of July celebration. So that's a little bit about Cheecho. And I want to thank you for logging on. I hope you don't mind I recorded this because I would like to put it online and use it later on. So, do you guys have any questions? You can type them in the comments and I'll respond to them. Okay. Well, I should add that Cheecho is now available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the online book retailers. The book is available there both as a download and as a paperback copy. Again, even though this is a book geared primarily towards children, I think adults who read it are going to see a lot of their childhood reflected in that. When is the movie coming out soon? I hope. I think they're going to see a lot of their childhood reflected in there because, as I mentioned, our childhood is a time when we have a lot of magic in our lives. And I wanted the magic to be an important component in the book, but I didn't want a fantasy thing. So the magic that Chicho does is very much grounded in reality. So it's more normalized. I think the term is magical realism. So that's a little bit about Chicho. And again, thank you for logging on. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.